Hello and welcome to our Tipsters Hub. Welcome to this channel. We are going to look at how to read CSV files into R. For this video, we are going to look at just reading the files into base R, which is the engine of R, without using any other additional packages. So at this point, I assume that you have R Studio and R installed in your computer. So we are going to do this, and we are going to do this in R file that we call an R script. So CSV files are comma separated values, which means that they're a way to store tabular data or spreadsheets, and it's a very common way to store data. So first of all, we want to read CSV files into R using base R. So first we will assign the dataset that we want to read as county. The dataset is here, so it's popcounty.csv. So that every time you see the extension .csv, that's what I'm talking about. So the function we are going to use is the read CSV function in R, and we are going to read the pop county.csv file. So when we run this, we see that on your bottom left there's a dataset that has been read with 5 observations and 2 variables. So this is just a small dataset that I read in just to show and demonstrate how to read CSV files into R. So we can view this file that we read into R, and we see that there's an issue because we see that the columns are Mombasa, which means that we need to change the specification when we are reading the CSV files. So this happens when the first row of the file is actually the name of the column. So in this case, we are going to write header is equals to true. This is telling R that consider the first row of the file as the title or as the names of the columns. So when we read this again and then we view county, we see that the issue is still the same, which means that we can say header is equals to false. Then view. So this is just normal what happens when you're reading files. So you see here it means that there's another problem. So I'm just showing you the issues and the problems that sometimes you face when reading files because you've not really understood what the file looks like. So in this case we can see that the separator between the column names is a semicolon. So we can introduce a new argument, separator, and then tell R that the separator is a semicolon. What happens when we do that? So view county. Right, excellent. So now we see that the file has been read in as it should be, and we see that we have clearly defined values underneath each column. So another thing we notice is in the V5 column, the separator between the digits and the decimals is a comma. So it happens that sometimes some files define this separator as a comma, others define it as a period or a point. So the point is usually the most common, and in this case we can add another argument and say that decimal has been defined as a comma. So we're telling R to read this file and assume that where in each column the values have a comma instead of a point, it should assume that as the decimal point. So if we read this again and then we view county, excellent. Now we see that the v5 variable has been read in with the decimals as should be. So we can also try to see what happens if we are reading files from a different source. So this is assuming that the file is within your computer, but what if it's hosted on a website somewhere? So in this case, I'm going to read this file that is stored on GitHub. So GitHub, most people store their files on GitHub repositories, so it's possible that you want to read it directly from that. So if we say county2 and then we read .csv, but now we are reading directly from the link that I've copied. Make sure the link is accurate, and when you see the row after the forward slashes, that means the link has been correctly defined, because I'll just show you. So if we read this and then we view county2, you see what happens. You see each column is correctly defined. We have county, we have male, we have female, we have intersex, we have total. So you can, let me just change it a bit and say we've left something out in the name of the URL. If we try to run that, we see that R is giving us an error saying HTTP status was not found. So this means that if the function does not, or if the URL is not correct, R will give you a warning or an error and tell you that there's something. So you need to check your data and just make sure that everything and the URL is correct, which can now be read into R. So that's the first way to read CSV files into R using base R, and in the next videos I'm also going to show you other functions that you can use to read CSV files into R. And in case you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section. Please share, like this video. Thank you so much, and goodbye. See you in the next video. Thank you.